Hello, everybody, and welcome to another racing video slash live stream. And in today's video, we're here with probably one of the coolest things that I'm going to be doing is making a sim racing guide to help you and myself to become great sim racers. Now, there are other racing guides, but these are my personal ideas to help me race and the knowledge. So, as you can tell, lesson 1 is the car and the driver. Pretty much what that means is we're going to basically get into the car. And we're at the racing school here in the Appalachian Mountains, I think, which is very cool. So, in order to start into sim racing, you need to know the car and who you are getting into the car. So, pretty much what that means is you need to know the car first before you start racing. And a lot of people may think, oh, I could just hop into a car and start racing and learn from there. You can, but it's going to take longer. As for me, I've been racing quite poorly recently, like in the past, like last year, I think we started sim racing here on the channel, and then we stopped because I thought that was bad. And turns out, because of how good my driving is in American Truck Simulator, I decided to drive that. And we'll get into all that here. But pretty much what the whole thing is to know the car and know yourself. That's pretty much the lesson. And we're going to go over this. So pretty much you want to know your car's setup. So that means you need to know how much horsepower your car has, how much braking you need to have, and how much you need to put in the car as much as possible. And pretty much we're using probably the slowest car and probably one of the best driver's car, as you could say, the Mazda Miata Cup car, which is pretty much a go-to entry-level car. There are some other cars, but for me personally, think that the MX-5 Cup cars are probably the best choice for getting into sim racing before you get into the higher level hypercars, supercars, you name it, GT3, DTM, and stuff like that. Because it's down on horsepower, but it may lack, where it lacks horsepower is where it lacks consistency. And we'll get into all of that pretty much. So brake bias is you could set how much braking you need to put inside the car. We're just going to leave it bone stock for now. Because for me personally, I need to get used to this car because I love this car a lot. We've driven it in Can We Win in Different Cars challenge. And that video pretty much is really good. But this car was lagging horsepower, and I want to get used to this car. So, yeah, so brake pressure is going to be at 100. You could set that or whatever. We're in racing room. You could use whatever racing. This goes for any type of racing, like Forza Motorsport, anything. And we'll get into all that too as well. But we got front tires hard. You can change that to, I think, like things. I don't. We can't do it here, but I know in other cars you can, like the Formula One cars, for example. You could use the front. We're not going to touch any of this because, my personal opinion, this setup is probably the best. And you could pause it wherever you like. So you could also try it yourself. Here's the rear, electronics, ABS, stuff like that. Driveline, the gear ratios to get higher, and the engine levels, which can't, or the brake. ERS, as they say, brake reduction system, whatever. But that's the setup that we're using, and the stats of the car is also important. We have another driver as well. Back. Where is the car's stats? Nope, not here. I think it has to be car setup. So we are rocking a I don't know what engine we have, but it's probably around 200 to like 400 to 300 horsepower. Engine 100, 200, 300, around that range. Because it's low on torque. There's not a lot of torque and power. So we're rocking like 215 horsepower engine, or 215 Newton meters of torque, I think. So quite low, honestly. And then final drive is there. But anyway, you need to know, the whole point is to need to know yourself and how you could be driver. Once you know your car's stats and stuff, it should be quite easy. Now, we're going to use this AI car as an example. And then once you feel ready, you may have a weird racing setup. You may think, oh, I don't have a racing rig, I don't have all that. We'll get into all of that stuff. We'll let the AI go. It's practice right now. But once you're ready and you have your car set up, your steering wheel set up to your liking, you could head out onto the track and put in some practice laps. Now we do have 2 minutes. It could have been more, but we'll increase the time. We have a 10-minute like race. And the whole point of racing is to be consistent with your laps. So you may be like, oh no, I'm going way too wide. I'm going off of the track, getting a lot of penalties. That is okay. You need to know what your driver, like, what you're comfortable with when driving a car. You could be in second gear the entire time and just leisurely driving. That's okay because you're getting to know what you're comfortable with. And you may be all the way in sixth gear, driving slowly. Sometimes you may go off of the track like this. It's perfectly fine. You're trying to find your own personal setup and trying to find the best driver's line as much as possible. Now you could have assists on that could also help you. I'm just going based off of my knowledge of sim racing, and I think we're doing good. Next up, but pretty much it's just getting to know and have fun the first half before you get competitive. Now we do have one person out on track with us that's completely gone, and you may get that thing, or you may get a track penalty. That's perfectly fine. And that was a quick race. Of course, it's practice. We only have 2 laps. Next up is qualifying. Qualifying is where you need to have a clean, consistent lap. So what that means is you need to be clean. So you can't be rough on the edges when it comes to racing, or aka qualifying. In practice, yeah, practice is practice. Practice makes perfect. Yes. In all sports, that thing counts. But in order to qualify as much as possible, like, yes, you may get rammed off of the track, like as you've seen there. Don't get mad. It's all about racing. You're not racing him, you're racing yourself. And you see these blue markers on the track. Those indicate where your straight line. And you need to stay within those points. If you go outside of those blue markers, and there will be different colors on different tracks, and there may be an extension to the track, and maybe those blue and gray things on the side of the track right here may be extended out further. But here's the catch. It may not all be like that, because there is a track limit, and a track limit is pretty much the extension to where you're not supposed to go. You have to stay within the track limits. You're limited to how far you could go from right to left. You can't just go, oh, super wide, Max Verstappen, and like, you can't go all the way wide like this, or else you'll get what's called a track limit or a penalty for going off of the track. Hence, in Forza Motorsport, it's a classic penalty. And also, crashing is a part of racing. They think, oh, I'm gonna crash and I'm gonna suck. Yeah, it's a part of racing. You're going to crash. You may get hurt, or get scared, and that's the whole point of racing. Is you have to build up what is called what is it? Frick, I'm having a brain fart. Confidence, there it is. Confidence. And I think we're gonna get P1 in the race. P2. We did go off of the track into the gravel pit, which will happen. And then the race is a race. So we have a 10-lap race. Pretty simple. Just 10 laps in 10 minutes. Yeah, so the track limits is going to be the green. You can't go off into the green or the gray area or these white lines. You have to stay within the track limits. Most of these curves right here, as you can see, will be extended either a little bit farther and have like a slight line extension to the thing. These gray and white curbs, or curves right here, are curbs. Yes, it may kind of be confusing, but these are curbs, or rumble strips, as you want to call it. This is the track limit right here. You can't go in. There we go. So once you feel confident in yourself, you could start your own race. And you may suck. Maybe another driver will pit maneuver you inside of the wall the first time. It's okay. And there may be better drivers. And you may shift poorly. Or you may have an automatic transmission. And also, another key factor is to have a clean race or whatever. Is some cars will have this marking, this red marking on the steering wheel, which is that red thing next to the Mazda steering wheel. That red thing is gonna indicate your direction. So if you're gonna be pointing, are your wheels. So if you're gonna be moving to the right, like this, turning, that indicator should be slightly with the curves to have that inner clean apex. Sometimes you'll go over and sometimes you'll go under, and that marking on the steering wheel in some cars is useful because that will indicate how sharp and how light you're turning. So if you're turning light, you will go wider. If you're turning tight, it will go tighter, depending on where you're steering and what direction that red line or dot, whatever you want to call it on the steering wheel, is going to be pointing. It's all kind of confusing. But the more that you'll practice, and you could do this as long as you like. You could go wide like this, and you'll get a track penalty. In some cases, they will actually stop your lap time, and you have to start all over. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. And that means you have exceeded the track limit. So now you know where the track limit is. You now know where you need to steer. And once you get used to the steering, it's now all about yourself and how quickly you can move your hands, aka shifting. You could have a clutch, you could have an automatic, or a manual mode with the paddle shifters, which is super sick. And then also, to have a sim, to even know how to drive or get into sim racing, you need a steering wheel and pedals. I use Thrustmaster products, so I have the force feedback wheel. I have the TMX PC Racer with the Thrustmaster F1 steering wheel, and both products work perfectly fine. There are a bunch of different sim racing equipment out there for different prices. You could get the cheapest one on Amazon. I'll link some of the products down in the description. I'm not sponsored by any Thrustmaster brands or anything. But I'll link the products down in the description down below, so you guys could go and check it out. And hopefully this will be helpful. And I'll upload some new lessons to help out here on the channel. But once you get to know the how driving works and stuff, and you'll get used to the shifting. You can have and then I also have a Thrustmaster THA shifter, which is the H shifter and sequential shifter as well. Jeez, say that 100 times fast. Which we're kind of sucking right now in the racing, but once you get the quartering ability down and stuff, and you know where to steer. Now all you need to know is the shifting, your gas, and your pedal, how much throttle input you need to put down. So for example, for the straightaway, 100% throttle and a nice shift right there. You have an RPM gauge that's on the bottom right or bottom top or center, or you could use the dashboard if there is one. Sometimes it could be up on top. There's multiple ways where you could see the RPM gauge. So on the bottom right hand corner of your screen, you'll see how fast we're going. We're going 92 miles per hour. We're in second gear, third gear right now. You have P2P, that is push to pass. Below it, you have the DRS, which is the drag reduction system, and you also have ERS, which can be added as well, which is the engine reduction system as well. Drag reduction and engine reduction system. um, which we'll get into all of that. That's mainly Formula One style stuff and competitive racing on this car that we have in the Mazda Cup car, which we'll be using probably throughout the lesson. Throughout probably the first portion of the stuff. We'll get into that stuff. And then you have the tire. You have 4 different squares. Those are your tires. So you can have tire wear, which reduces the grip and handling, depending on what you set it at. Right now it's off, and then we have the gas. So we have infinite amount of gas. You could turn that off or put that on, which your gas gauge reduces, and we'll get into all that. Up on top, you have 4 different squares. You have what looks to be a car with a smashed front end. That is the damage to your car. Or what is it? Frick. What is it? Cosmetic damage, which is the outside of the car, the bodywork and everything. And then you have the engine, which could be engine damage, how much engine damage. Right next to it, you have the transmission, which are the 2 gears with the exclamation point. And then you have what looks to be a coil or a spring, and that is your suspension damage. So each of those squares, they're off, so there's no damage to the engine, transmission, cosmetic bodywork, and suspension. What the AI is doing is he's faster than us. So normally there would be probably like a blue flag to let pass. You just move on over to a safe spot area on the track. It could be left or right, depending on where you are on the track. We're on the final lap, and right now we came in last place, which is totally fine. And just like that, you have completed your own race, which is pretty fun. And you'll probably do this a whole bunch of times. Probably it will take you like years, maybe weeks, maybe days to a few weeks, few days, few years to actually get used to the car, get used to the track, depending on how you handle the car. So we got 18 points, and our BOP is 25 kilograms. And we don't have the best lap because we had track limits. We went off of the track, so we got penalized for that. And then, as you could see, and at the end of your races, you'll have a position, your name, the car that you're using, the Mazda, which we're using Mazda. Status will be on track or off track or free roam, depending on what sim game you're using. Tire compound would be hards. This H is hards. Hard tires, soft tires, intermediates, wets, you name it, the whole 9 yards. S1 is sector 1, S2 is sector 2, and X3 is sector 3. And these are your best times within those sectors, and that's in qualifying. Race covers best time, how much grams you've lost, or how body to car ratio, which is 25 kilograms, which is what these cars are weigh, or the person, I don't know what that means. I don't know what BOP means. I should know, but I think it's body to percentage ratio. So the person driving the car at the end of the race is 25 kilo. I have no idea. Probably. Then your laps. Our tester, what came in first with 6 laps. We only completed 5 because he lapped us once. Points is how many points you completed. So first place is 25 points, second place is 18, third place is probably like 15, probably maybe 11, and fourth place is like so on and so forth. And then your finishing times right there, which is pretty sick. And then once that is, you end the race and you start the next one, which we'll be doing again. But yeah, so this is the first lesson. But that's pretty much it with the first lesson of car and the driver thing. If you guys want to see more of this, I hope this is helpful. Feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. I hope this helps you guys out with sim racing. It's going to be a nice tutorial or a guide to have good sim racing knowledge and stuff. And I'll link the different wheel setups so you could go and check it out. Once again, I'm not sponsored by these brands of steering wheels, but I'll totally help you out. My personal best would be a force feedback wheel. It's not really like the full like TMX PC Racer or a direct drive wheel. But if you're getting into that stuff, I would recommend a force feedback wheel before you make a big purchase like a direct drive wheel, in my opinion. And there's also a lot of options. And yeah, so I hope this was helpful for everybody watching this video. If you made it this far, please feel free to like and subscribe. Again, we're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Yeah, so my name is Simnick, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.